Welcome to our webinar, The Power Behind the SailPoint and Microsoft Identity Solution, which will include a roundtable discussion highlighting our customer, Inter-American Development Bank's recent IAM journey to securing their internal and external identities. We'll also provide you an overview of our holistic integrated identity management approach, where you will learn how organizations are creating modern identity platforms by leveraging both Microsoft and SailPoint. My name is Gretchen Wickman, and I'm a Managing Director and Identity Service Line Leader here at Edgile. Today, I'll be joined by some industry experts from Edgile, Microsoft, SailPoint, and our customer from Inter-American Bank. First, let's start with introductions. My colleague, Tarun.
Thank you, Gretchen. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Tarun Vazirani. And I'm a partner here at Edgile and responsible for the Northeast region at Edgile. I'm also an identity and cloud strategist and also really responsible for the overall tying in of our solution sets together with identity, cloud, and governance risk and compliance.
Great. Alex?
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Dunker. I'm based out of Dallas, Texas, working for Edgile in the identity practice as well.
Thank you. Our customer, Victoria Cantos from Inter-American Development Bank.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Victoria Cantos. I am Senior System Analyst at the Inter-American Development Bank.
Thank you. Diana from SailPoint.
Thank you, Gretchen. This is Diana Valeria. I'm from SailPoint, where I function as a strategist, helping organizations advance and mature their identity governance programs. I'm very excited to be here today because I have a customer obsession about solving complex problems and keeping organizations safe.
Awesome. Harish from Microsoft.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Harish Aitaraju. I'm a program manager here in the Identity Engineering CXP team in Microsoft. And my key focus is to work with some of our key partners in building, strengthening, and taking to market their identity practices.
Great. And last but certainly not least, Javier, also from Microsoft.
Perfect. Good afternoon. Javier Dominguez here. I work on the engineering division as well, identity engineering division in the customer and partner success team. And specifically, I work with customers to try to accelerate their understanding and adoption of Microsoft identity products. And also, as we do that, then we also look to understand also needs and requirements that we should be translating into features or capabilities in our products.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's move on to the agenda. First, we're going to cover a brief overview of who we are, followed by a roundtable discussion with Inter-American Development Bank on their identity journey, followed by an overview of the Microsoft and SailPoint integrated identity solution. Then we'll roll right into our demo, followed by Q&A. So first, a little bit about Edgile. We are a strategy-first risk and security advisory services firm offering a full suite of consulting services from strategy to implementation, training, and managed support. We were established in 2001, so we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. We have a highly experienced team averaging more than 10 years experience spread across our 3 integrated practices. First is identity and access management, where our strategic partner is SailPoint, and we were named SailPoint Admiral Top Delivery Partner for 3 years since they've had the designation. Our second is cloud security or information, where Microsoft is our strategic partner, and we were named their System Security Integrator of the Year in 2020, and also have been nominated again this year. And lastly, our GRC or Integrated Risk Management practice, where ServiceNow is our strategic partner. We have customers across all industries and specialize in the highly regulated ones, including financial services, healthcare, and energy.
Thank you, Gretchen. Just getting into the details of the webinar, I want to just start with some of the foundational elements and why are we doing this. As Edgile, when we work with our clients in the identity space, we've generally seen a request from all of our clients to have a holistic solution that really ties in your overall identity management, right? So that means your overall internal and external identities, including the vendors and business partners. And they really want to have an overall tight governance around these identities, right? That is why really it becomes very important that clients use these platform solutions for access management like Microsoft and for identity governance like SailPoint. And both of them are being the leaders in that space with Gartner. With that, I'd like to introduce the Microsoft team. Harish.
Thank you, Tarun. I'll break it up into two parts. First, I want to talk a little bit about Microsoft Security All Up. Microsoft Security provides a comprehensive set of security solutions that are built to work together, from identity and access management, threat protection, information protection, and cloud security. Our products really integrate easily and share intelligence from thousands of signals that we have generated, that are generated on a daily basis, and that leverages the Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. And they work with non-Microsoft solutions too. You can monitor and safeguard your assets across clouds, whether they come from Microsoft Azure itself, Amazon Web Services, Slack, Salesforce, or a combination of all of the above. We are recognized as a leader in security. Gartner has named Microsoft Security a leader in 5 Magic Quadrants. This endorsement is really exciting, as we believe it speaks the breadth and the depth of our security offerings. Now that covers Microsoft Security per se, but I just want to turn over to Javier to think about, or probably detail out more about our identity offerings. Javier?
Sure, thank you. Well, I'll say that, there are certain things that are driving some changes in the organizations, for example, related to digital transformation and adoption, the cloud services or modern application. So that effectively has meant that many users, devices, and applications that now are being consumed are actually now residing outside of the traditional network perimeter, right? So now firewalls, intrusion detection systems, VPNs, or any kind of network device is not longer sufficient to actually offer the right level of security. When you also take into account that there are, in average, more than 300,000 new threats appearing daily, and that something will eventually breach through the perimeter, then organizations need to actually consider a new approach. And Zero Trust is actually defining as that new framework, because it's a framework that is about how to enhance security and basically replace the assumption that we had before that everything that was coming from inside of the corporate network was actually secure or should be trusted. And that replacement actually is based in 3 principles. One is that you should always verify. That's what is called Zero Trust, right? So always verify. Then make sure that you always apply the concept of use least privilege. And then the third one, which I think that security organizations have already in mind for quite some time, is assume breach, right? So using those 3 elements as principles of how you adopt our Zero Trust. So Zero Trust at the end is about making sure that every user, every device, every access, every token that you issue at the first time of authentication, or as you are accessing the data, refreshing the way that you access the service, is verified and is controlled before communication or access is allowed. That way, then identity becomes a very critical part of IT. And as that happens, as network perimeters disappear, then basically identity becomes a control plane for applying security and to enforce effective controls and protecting data. So that way, it doesn't matter anymore where the software lives. It doesn't matter anymore if the users are coming from outside of a corporate network or even from personal devices. The system and the rules will apply no matter what. And that way we can ensure a better secure posture for organization. And those capabilities can actually be used across a spectrum of internal users, partners, and also externals or consumers or customers in this case. In that case, we have external identities offerings that actually offer capabilities and features that apply the same concept of Zero Trust also for this kind of user profiles. So with that, I pass it to Tarun.
Thank you so much, Javier. So As both Javier and Harish have talked about, the world is getting more risky for organizations trying to go through digital transformation. And since 2005, SailPoint has been focused on helping organizations move safely along their digital journey by gaining visibility into and understanding of identities. And that's all types of identities, whether it's employees or contractors or volunteers or vendors, or even new types of identities like serverless functions, bots, or data itself. SailPoint is focused on helping organizations see these things, understand them deeply, and then apply policy so you know that your security perimeter is drawn tight around that identity. We integrate with applications, data, and platforms to provide one place where you know who has access to what, and you can be sure that access is correct. We're partnering closely with Microsoft to remove complexity with this holistic visibility and using policy-based governance to help apply what Javier was referring to, that zero trust model, so that nobody has excess access beyond what they need at any point. We focus on keeping your organization safe as you embrace new technologies and your digital transformation. Gartner, Forrester, and KuppingerCole all name SailPoint as the leader in the identity governance space, and that's really our obsession, is helping organizations be safe and transform more quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. We will now get into the roundtable discussion. For the roundtable discussion this afternoon, we'll have Harish and Javier from the Microsoft team up with me. And without wasting any further time, I'd like to use this opportunity to introduce our client here, Victoria from Inter-American Development Bank, who's a system analyst really responsible for the whole identity program. And Victoria, can you please introduce the bank and yourself, please?
Hi, Tarun. Good afternoon again, and thank you for inviting me to this webinar to share our experience. The Inter-American Development Bank is an international organization whose mission is to improve the lives of Latin America and the Caribbean by financing economical, social, and institutional development and promoting regional economical integration. The IDB has worked with governments for 60 years. The headquarters is located in Washington, D.C., and our customers are governments located in Latin America and the Caribbean. This is in a nutshell what is the IDB.
Thank you, Victoria. I know you've had a lot of success in your overall identity transformation program in the last few years. Can you tell us a little bit about how you went about this overall identity transformation journey?
Well, everything started in 2015 when our IT management decided to transition from the on-premise solution protected by the network wall to the cloud strategy. We started first by migrating our email system and little by little adopting all of the Office 365 tools. In this journey, we start thinking about how to protect our information that was now in the cloud, and also how to facilitate the access to our system to personnel, to the IDB personnel, and also to our partners, so they could access from anywhere and any device. That led us to have conversations with Microsoft, and as Javier mentioned, they introduced us to the Zero Trust framework, which for us was basically protect our identities and protect our devices. I think this is where that marked the decisive point in our journey with Microsoft, and we decided to adopt Azure AD as our identity solution.
Actually, that's a great point, great point that I really wanted to ask, in kind of extending that point which you mentioned in the last, was how was your overall journey been with Microsoft?
We started, as I mentioned, by deploying Exchange Online and then adopting several other cloud applications. And at that point, it became evident that we needed to modernize the way that we were securing access and protecting information. So we started looking at the security tools, and we start adopting several of them, like Microsoft Defender. We start adopting Cloud App Security, Azure AD, and in particular, Azure AD Conditional Access, which allow our users to easy access in a secure way. And this was especially important for us because we have our personnel, our projects are located in remote areas in Latin America. So it was important for us that they could access by mobile devices in a secure manner. No? With that in mind, after Office 365, we start migrating all our SaaS applications that at that time we were using a different identity provider. And after we migrate all our SaaS solutions, we start using also Azure AD for authentication and authorization of our internal applications. So we can take advantage of all the security controls that we had with Azure AD. Once we migrate all our internal users, we start thinking in our external users. And then we decided to implement Azure AD for external identities to provide a seamless and secure experience for our partners and also for our employees. And at this point is when we decided to partnership with Edgile to help us to speed up this change.
Got it. Firstly, thank you for choosing the platform. It's always very exciting to hear your voice on that. But I wanted to continue one more point, which is about the business drivers for Azure external identities in your environment. What are your thoughts there?
Well, we wanted to have an unified solutions. We didn't want to have different IDPs for the internal and external. So having a unified solution was one of the drivers. We also didn't want to reduce cost and reduce complexity of using many tools or products. And the other reason why we decided to engage with the Azure external identities is because we wanted to have a great degree of customizations. We have different use cases. We needed these solutions for our partners. We need identities for our vendors and suppliers, and also for our employees. And in these different categories, we needed a solution that was flexible and simple, because we have age groups that needed to have something easy for them to use. Another important reason was we needed to implement multilingual. Our partners are located in different countries with different language and different time zones. And I believe the most important reason is because in with this solution, we expose financial systems that require security controls, and not only at the login part, but also at the transaction level. We needed to have a solution that allow us to avoid non-repudiation. And for that, we use MFA, and the Azure identities allow us to have that type of control. And at the end of the day, our customers are located in many countries, so it was important that they have an enhanced experience through any device. Basically, those I think are the business drivers to use Azure external identities.
Awesome. That actually I actually think of another extension on what you said is, are there any apps or portals that you want to call out for Azure AD external identities?
Yeah, one of the most important was the portal, the financial portal for our partners. Through these portals, our partners can review information about the status of their loans, and also they can allow approvals for disbursement of big amount of money. We also have a vendor supplier portal. Through this portal, our vendors can view information about their payments. And the other portal that we have is the portal used by our ex-employees, who will review information about their retirement payments. And in addition to that, precisely today, we are having the most important event for the IDB, which is the annual meeting. And in this event, we bring together leading economical and financial leaders from 48 countries. And that website is currently using the Azure AD external identities.
That's great to hear, Victoria. So one question, I mean, considering all these different portals that you just described, can you share what number of users are actually accessing this platform now?
I will not reveal the exact number, but I can tell you that we have thousands of users. These users, as I mentioned before, are our partners, our vendors, and suppliers, our ex-employees, and of course the IDB personnel that sometimes access to portal shares with our external users.
Okay. No, don't worry. I understand about the numbers. So one question. So what are the benefits that you're getting, or you as an institution is getting out of using the Azure AD platform?
So one of the first benefits is obviously the reductions on help desk calls. As I mentioned, the clients are located in many locations, so in different time zones. So now we had less number of support calls. The other benefit also is the reduction in cost and complexity, because we are unifying, having a unified and single solution. And also the integrated security platform that brings billing features that enhance the IDB protections. Things like DDoS protection, or signing risk, or smart lookouts, or auditing logs, that means consistency levels of security and governance to detect security risks across all our users. Ensuring that the IDB data and the apps are protected always, I think is one of the great benefits now. And in addition to that, I believe also that we now allow our authentications, seamless authentications that support bring your own identity for our partners that are using Azure AD. And with this, they can bring their own corporate credentials to collaborate with us. And overall, I think the tools are very easy access, allow very easy access for our internal and external users.
Thank you, Victoria. I mean, it's great to hear that the organization is realizing all those benefits. Now, you were joking at the beginning about the lengthy journey, and as you went through that journey, is there any kind of lesson learned or recommendations that you would give to other customers that might be exploring to go through a similar path? Anything that you want to share?
So I think one of the lesson learned that we have is that Azure AD is a platform that support all the industry standards like SAML or OpenID or OAuth, and setting up new applications that exist in the gallery or integrated with new internal development application. It's very straightforward. This helps with the adoption and overall modernization. This also helps that our developers are not developing, implementing, and maintaining complicated modules to manage authentication and authorization. And for another learning that we have, and this is related to the external identities, if you want to do extreme customization as we did, I think it's important to have clear your user case as we had, our partners, our vendors, our ex-employees, have clearly this use case and also have clearly the journeys, the authentication journeys that you want them to have. And that will help to speed up the implementation.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. I hope that customers listening to this, can actually take note of these recommendations and apply them as they go through a similar process. Now, during the roundtable, you have referred multiple times to user experiences, different user types, or how easy is the platform. Can you share some around the feedback that you have received from users, or how much those experiences from users actually have improved through this process?
I think the experience from our user has been great. Always when you talk about introducing new security controls, people get afraid, but it has not been our case. Our user has enrolled to MFA and without any problem, and how MFA happened for them has been very seamless. So in general, the experience for them has been great and successful now. I will also say that for our internal personnel, this has improved productivity since they can work from any device, any location, and in a secure manner. And I believe the pandemic has helped us to validate this statement. And the other thing that I think has been great for our user is the self-service tool, like for management password or discover application. That obviously has reduced the help desk calls that we have.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Victoria. Can you shed some more light into the overall products you're using for overall identity and access management and the identity governance?
For the, I am distracted because my son just arrived. For our identity architecture, we have Azure AD for our internal personnel. We also have SailPoint, that is the provisioning of user for the internal personnel, and also in Azure AD, and also the provisioning for our ex-employees in Azure external identities, and obviously the Azure external identities to manage our partners and clients. Basically, this is what summarizes the infrastructure or the architecture of the identity solution in the IDB.
Great. Thank you, Victoria. With that, we can actually move into the summary slide. So as a summary, what did we learn from this overall? So from our understanding, there were overall 3 main goals for the bank here. One was then overall cost savings initiative. The other one was overall identity transformation. And then the third one was really enhancing the security. In the first bucket, from the bank had a cost takeout really from another product to move into the Azure AD product line. Also, because it's a true CIM as a service model, there was no really cost and or infrastructure related costs associated with this. In the second bucket, by moving on to this one platform solution, you were able to get that holistic view of identities. Also, there was really immediate productivity for customers, business partners, and suppliers, right? By moving on to the platform solution. And then last one, which I know Javier and Victoria kind of highlighted that out, right? You had a overall seamless end user experience as part of it. And then the last bucket, by using overall the Azure AD external identities and also using SailPoint as the overall identity governance solution, you were able to mitigate the risk of external identities in really your internal system. And there was really no real need to manage any of those external usernames and passwords and those identities, because now that was managed by an overall Azure AD external identity system. And then from an overall solution perspective, as Victoria mentioned, Edgile already partnered with the Inter-American Development Bank to build that overall modern identity platform with an intuitive user interface and a lot of different complex use cases. And from a solution perspective, as we covered, right, there was overall Azure external identities that was used for external identity management. There was the overall Azure AD used for overall access management, single sign-on, MFA, and then the overall zero trust framework. And then the last one, really to tie all of this aspect and the identity governance around all of these identity and the lifecycle management, there was this SailPoint solution that's being used at the bank. With that, we're at the end of the roundtable discussion. So thank you, Victoria, Javier, and Harish for really participating with me in this roundtable. I really appreciate your time. And Victoria, thank you again for being one of our great customers. We will now transition into the other pieces of the webinar, which is the overall integrated solution. As an introduction, companies are really undergoing digital transformation, and historically in your internal identity management system, it's mostly been employees that's mostly been connected. As the systems were growing, there were parts of other suppliers and distributors and partners that were added on to this. Eventually, I think there were customers added on, and as you know, CIM is just on its journey, started only a few years back. In addition to that, now there are Internet of Things and overall IoT devices that becomes a part of this overall identity journey, right? So managing the connection at this scale can really be daunting, really, without the right approach. So just as a quick fact, the overall average company's network is accessed by over 90 vendors every week. By 2020, there were overall the number of IoT devices that surpassed 30 billion in total. And people accessing these corporate networks, there are some identities that they actually manage and some which they actually don't even manage. So it's really, the aim is to really look for a comprehensive and holistic solution with the right approach here. So, and considering all of that, you know, clients really need to start thinking about moving from this overall perimeter-based security concept into an overall zero trust framework. And really, identity is now becoming more and more important, and identity is now the new perimeter and really the foundational element of zero trust. What Edgile has done is really built in an overall joint integrated solution using an overall identity management and identity governance platform, in this case, the SailPoint and Microsoft, and we will demo this out to you shortly. With that, I'll hand it over to Diana from SailPoint as she walked about the details.
No, thank you so much, Sharon. So when we get to where the rubber meets the road and your organization needs to give access to both internal and external identities, we wanted to give you a general blueprint for a typical implementation. You know, and keep in mind, this is very high level and varies per customer, but we wanted to have that sort of guardrails for you to keep in mind as you're looking at your own challenges as a customer. Now, as we look at this, SailPoint provides much of the identity security foundation and automation, that work which it happens behind the scenes to ensure that people have the access they need at the moment that they need it and are authenticating. SailPoint does this by connecting to the place where your identities live. You know, that upper row, it's usually HR, but sometimes other data stores. And we watch for changes that happen, new users, a title change, some location or responsibility. Then we apply automation so that you have appropriate policy-based fine-grained access into applications to start to make certain we're driving that model of zero trust and the exact privileges you need at any given moment based upon what the data says you should have. Now, SailPoint's provisioning integrates with Microsoft's identity management to ensure that users are given an intuitive, easy interface to do things like sign in, reset their passwords, that dashboard to access all of their applications, and to do so securely because Microsoft controls that authentication process and understands when a user might be suspicious. Conditional access can trigger policies if there's something I doubt. End users can get invited to and be authenticated by Microsoft and then reset their passwords and find as soon as they sign in, they have all the access they need already delivered to their dashboard so they can single sign on live into these applications. It's really about that immediate efficiency so that somebody has that right access at the right moment, and that's what we can provide together. And then when you have non-federated applications where people aren't able to single sign on into them, SailPoint can synchronize the password so that users truly have that seamless and frictionless step into the application from the beginning. And of course, all of this being wrapped around governance policies so that if data changes and I know that my partner or my vendor or my employee is leaving the organization, should be losing access or changing access, that I immediately can identify that and still guarantee through governance that that policy says they're going to lose access immediately. So this is really that high-level blueprint. You can start to see where different functions break down in how we're integrating with one another and how together we provide that seamless solution. Now, Javier and Harish, do you care to discuss more details on the use cases that we're solving with our combined solution? Let me pass that on to you.
Yes, thank you, Diana. Actually, continuing on what you were seeing earlier, both from Victoria, Tarun, Diana's point, the objective, what you see here on the screen, is how do we really funnel that thought into the ways you can use it. Azure AD External Identities really supports many B2B and B2C scenarios and use cases. Every organization really has the opportunity to digitally transform their journey to achieve greater productivity and be competitive while growing and really securing their digital estate. That's a lot of words I've really said over there, but let's try and break that up a little bit more, because every relationship in the modern business environment is really becoming digital, not just between employees, but customers and clients, distributors, supply chain partners, and service providers to collaborate. With Azure AD B2C, you can provide simple, reliable, and secure SSO access to apps with customers using their preferred, or they can already bring their established social ID, or they can bring their enterprise ID or their local account identities. The ability to have various kinds of that particular way to, at a front end gate, to enter an application or a portal, that's important, and that we want to provide that kind of an ease. This allows users to connect using their preferred professional or personal identities in situations really where customers may sign up or purchase or resell products or services, or have a membership, or it's a loyalty program, or it could be even a government driven service. We have various customers across the world, thousands of customers, many as large as the government, that have a government-driven service right out of Azure AD B2C. So those you would get, and you would see a lot of them in the case studies and the use cases that we have that's available on Microsoft.com. However, this CIM solution is capable of supporting millions of users and billions of authentications every day. In here, you really see how we have bucketed these use cases that we solve with Azure AD B2C, and think of this as a white label authentication solution, which really means you can customize the entire user experience with your brand so that it blends seamlessly with your web applications, mobile applications, with single sign-on access that helps you to address anything to do with your applications, because it's standard-based, and also it can be easily integrated, as you heard in this case study here itself, into that environment itself. Now, if I had to go a little bit deeper here into another double click on the use case, another example is an external user store scenario that not only have Azure AD B2C to handle authentication for the application, but also integrate with external systems that stores user profiling or personal data, for example, to satisfy data residency requirements like regional or on-premise data storage policies. Very important in scenarios like GDPR or places where data cannot leave a particular region. The user journey can go on to do things like progressive proofing to third-party identity vendors while maintaining and complying an organization's high security needs. All of these, if you look at it, opens up to think that how these 6 use cases that you're seeing can really open up into where you want to use it and how you want to apply to it. But really the engine is where you would see how this whole thing works and what's under the hood of Azure AD B2C. For that, I would actually look on Javier to give us a little more insight into that. Javier?
Thank you, Harish. So yeah, so how all those use cases that you described are possible, right? So how we can achieve them is really, without going into too many details, right? Yeah, technical details at least. It is all possible because in Azure AD External Identities, there is this thing that we call the Identity Experience Framework, or IEF, right? So this framework is basically a very powerful orchestration engine in where developers, in where IT pros, in where security teams can build almost any authentication, user registration, profile edition, password reset experience that they can imagine, right? So the idea is that the identity experience framework gives ability to organizations to build journeys, and that's the way that we call them. And there might be different type of journeys, right? As I mentioned, authentication, user registration, that can actually be based on a combination of steps, like, for example, federating with another identity provider, or using first-party or third-party MFA options, or collecting user input from a different database, or integrating with external systems using RESTful APIs. So if I can give a few examples around how IAF can be super powerful is, for instance, the possibility of actually doing migrations just in time of users, assuming that the customer already has a database of which contains user information. So building certain user journeys, it is possible to onboard all the data just in time as the user logins the first time when the application has been set up to use B2C. Onboard all that data into the cloud directory. Another example might be integration with marketing solutions. Like I might be at the time of registration asking the user for email, for phone number, and then even presenting the user the option to consent to receive some regular bulletins or news. As they do that and they confirm, then it is very easy to integrate with a solution that actually is going to be responsible of sending these communications, one of these marketing solutions. And a similar example could apply as well, for example, to doing email validations or to sending emails to users. B2C comes out of the box with certain email capabilities to sending communications to users, especially when it's time to talk about registration or like doing second factor. But if customers actually want to use another solution or want to have a greater degree of customization and control over how those emails are sent and also how they look, then Identity Experience Framework will be the technology to use.
Thank you, Javier. So in summary, as my colleagues have shared with you today, really this is a best-in-class identity management, access management, and identity governance solution that can be used for all users, internal for employee and contractors, external for customers, partners, and business vendors, for all applications and devices. So this solution enables secure adaptive access with capabilities like multi-factor authentication and conditional access, a seamless user experience for quick and easy sign-on and to improve that end user productivity, unified identity management to manage access to all apps, whether on-premise or in the cloud, and simplified identity governance to automate and report on who has access to what.
Thank you very much, Gretchen, and we'll transition a little bit into some demos and a quick overview of the integrated solution. But what you'll see here is us using Azure External Identity combined with SailPoint to not only manage software as a service and our cloud apps and managing our connections with our partners using Azure AD, but initiating those external invitations, that identity governance, and that automated provisioning, including on-premise applications with SailPoint. So some of the use cases that we'll see today include that external identity invitation, which is what the first one we'll start off with. So I'm logged in here as Megan into our Edgile demo environment, and I will single sign on into SailPoint Identity IQ. What we're going to show here today is inviting a B2B user. One of the many reasons you might want to invite a B2B user is to have them bring their own identity. It reduces your licensing costs from a software perspective, but also from a cost perspective of managing passwords and items like that, since they get to bring their identity. So I will go ahead and show you in SailPoint the familiar user interface for many of your users. Normally you might have to go to the Azure portal, but by combining these two best of breed solutions, we'll show you how you can give a better user experience by using the combination of the two. So we'll invite Joni here. And the great thing we can do as well is add contextual information to decide what kind of invitation we want to add, whether that's customer access, perhaps developer contractor, someone who might need access to cloud events like Slack, Azure DevOps or remote desktop tools, or perhaps they're a staff contractor and they'll be working directly on an on-premise location, and we need to assign specific fine-grained access to on-premise applications due to that. So we can control the type of invitation they receive, the access they get, as well as do that governance through here. So we'll go ahead and submit this invitation, and then we'll jump over to another user type to show what that might look like. Frank, I've got a question for you while I'm jumping over to accept this invitation. While users may get to bring their own identities, can you still control how they access your end applications? So logging here into the My Apps portal, we will go to our Outlook email. And here we're going to see an invitation from our Edgile demo. So here we go, we have a Microsoft invitation. And Frank, if you wanted to, I guess, touch on some of that access control to your end applications, even when partners are accessing them.
Yes, so sorry, I was on mute there a second. Yeah, so there's a couple strategies. Some are group-based authorizations, some are attribute authorizations. Attribute being much more popular in these larger scales. You know, once we get, you know, beyond the tens and hundreds and even to millions of users that we're assigning common access into, we tend to move out of group-based concepts into attribute-based. And then applications can respond to those application settings or claims, as we call them, so they can see that a particular person may be from an organization or have a particular other attribute value that would then determine whether or not access to this application is appropriate to them or not. And then design experiences that let the applications guide the user. Maybe they haven't completed all of their profile sign up. Maybe they're just in the wrong place. You know, they were a physician instead of a patient, and they just clicked the wrong item. So you can actually not just, you know, slam the door on them, but actually provide them guided experiences that say, oh, you haven't completed the rest of your sign up. Oh, you have to get this other thing done. Or, hey, you're just in the wrong application. We're going to send you back to your starting page. Yeah. So those are ways we can do those. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
So here we show one of our developer that we invited, and they have direct access to the applications that they need to be successful. And what I also showed while Frank was speaking was how we can enforce multi-factor authentication and conditional access based on the applications that they're accessing. Let's go and show the other piece. Maybe we want to directly invite a user who only does not need access to the portal, but rather only needs access to one specific end application. So we'll head back to the Microsoft My Apps portal again. Log in as our invitee Christy this time. And we'll check our Outlook for another one of those invitations. And this time the goal of what we want to see is that access to that on-premise application or that specific access that they need rather than perhaps a portal. So we see here this invitation is specifically to our end application, and they'll be brought directly in. So maybe they're not a portal user, but based on the identity cubes and that identity governance and automated provisioning that SailPoint gives us, we can add in those layers of contextual information as well. And here we have Christy. She's got direct access. She has her assigned information as a staff on site and ready to go. And we'll jump back in as Megan as our manager and kind of look at how do we then govern those users. We've shown how we can automate that provisioning, how we can automate that. We've seen that single sign-on for that seamless piece, and that's one of the great things is what you might not be going on is this is happening very quickly, but all within the background we're leveraging a combination of Microsoft SSO, conditional access, Azure AD, and B2B, as those are B2B partners, and there's no need for those password resets and that management anymore. But let's take a quick look at conditional access. We can see we have an access review for Megan, and Megan has the ability to review access for her external users as well. That way you know what your external users have access to using SailPoint's best-in-class identity governance platform, and we can go in, review, and approve or revoke the end access to our users. And I want to, that's kind of the quick demo we'll have. I wanted to give everyone some time for questions if they may have. So just a quick recap of what we saw today. The benefits of this combined Azure External Identity, Azure AD, and SailPoint solution, or that you're reducing the time and friction for your integration with your customers and partners. We are automating the provision of cloud and on-premise applications. Users can bring their own identity, so you no longer have to manage their passwords and information. You can certify that access of Azure External Identity through SailPoint. Terminate and manage that access for those guest users. And this overall integrated solution makes life easier for administrators. We saw how easy it was to invite a user. No longer do you have to open a ticket for someone to directly enter the Azure portal. So now I'll hand it over to Gretchen Schroon for some question and answer.
Great, thank you, Alex. For additional information or resources, if you have questions around Microsoft or SailPoint programs, information on funded POCs or security programs and other related webinars, please visit our website, edgile.com/SailPoint-Microsoft. And now, Tarun, I'll turn it over to you for Q&A.
Sure, thank you, Gretchen. I know we have a little bit time remaining, just about 3 minutes, but I see a few questions there. The first question that I see here is, how are external partners and customers segmented away from internal employees in Azure AD? Harish, you want to cover that?
Oh, yes. I mean, the way that you can do it is how you're segregating. If it is to do with 2 ways to do it, you have both the B2B ways and the B2C ways. We have some very nice documentation on that, which I have actually posted it on the link over there. So you should look at that and think of what strategy you want to really apply in how do you want to treat your entire external identities, because sometimes you want to bring and be talking to 2 different guest users that you want to bring into your tenant, and how do you really go and treat it? Or is it a consumer identity and the treatment is different? Javier, do you want to extend on that? Is there something that you want to add on top of it?
Sure. Effectively, so one of the reasons why we do have 2 different directories, right? So in where you can actually store your employees, and then another one in where you store your partners and consumers, is because we understand that actually in the consumer space, in the customer space, or in the external space, it doesn't matter how you call it, not only there are some additional requirements around customization that are needed, but also customers, organizations are typically looking to isolate those type of users from my internal employees, right? So in order to be in compliance, in order to apply the right level of security. So that's how we actually isolate those different type of user types. The containers are different.
Great, thank you for answering that, Javier. I see a few more other questions coming in as well. Another question that came in was that this account was set up to access application from a location. If this user moves to a new location, can the access location of this account be modified to match, or will a new invite have to be sent? Alex,
yes.
You want to cover that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to take that. So when we have a lifecycle management process like a mover, we can absolutely change and reassign access to that end user in both the cloud and on-premise applications. However, if we're discussing a mover where they might be changing their home tenant, there might have to be a bit more of a change, or if they're but we have actually seen at our customers the conversions of their end users to guest users as well. So it'll have to get a little bit specific about the end use case, but we can definitely manage, say, if they're changing location or the role inside of an organization, the end access that they have on both the on-premise and cloud applications.
Great, thank you, Alex. Another question that I saw coming in was the customer using another SSO technology before they switched to Microsoft, and if so, who? Yes, when we worked with the IDB team, they were using another SSO solution, another competing product out here. But right now they've moved to the overall Azure AD and Azure AD SSO platform right now. So with that, I know we're running up on time. We will still try to answer any of the remaining questions privately and get back to you. With that, Gretchen, I want to hand it over back to you to close it out, and we're a little over time anyways.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining today. We look forward to having you at our next webinar.